It was the summer of 2007, and my son Jordan, who at the time was 12 years old, was on his first mission trip. He went to Oswego, New York to help rebuild a home. On one of those last days of the trip, he was working on the ground floor. His job was to pass 4x8 pieces of 5/8" plywood to the second floor. The workers on the second level would in turn pass the sheet to the top floor. At the end of the day, Jordan and his team leader shoved the final sheet up, but when the crew on the second floor pushed it to the third floor, no one was there. The third floor crew had mistakenly thought they were finished and they weren't in place. Since there was nobody to grab it, the piece of 4x8 plummeted. Those who saw it yelled, "Run!" The team leader escaped, but my son tripped and the piece of plywood fell directly on his leg. The damage was significant. His leg was crushed and his foot was actually dangling, held together by the ligaments. My wife and I and our two children had just sat down to dinner when the phone rang. The team leader told us about the accident and told us that Jordan was just taken to the hospital. When we asked what the damage was, he said it was most likely just a broken or fractured leg. He told us not to worry. We quickly cleared dinner, kissed our two oldest goodbye, and got in the car. My wife got in the car and she said, "I'm driving," and then she drove like a bat out of hell to get to that hospital. On the way, we got a call from the doctor at the hospital who told us that Jordan needed surgery right away to remove pressure from his leg. The operation was done while we were still en route. They simply could not wait for us to get there because they feared that the bone was going to break through the skin if it continued to swell. Fractured leg? Yeah, I don't think so. By the time we arrived at the Oswego hospital, Jordan was out of the operating room, lying groggily in a hospital bed. Unfortunately, because of the swelling, they couldn't put anything on his leg in terms of a cast. He was in tremendous amount of pain, so we stayed in the hospital with him that night. The next day, we drove him to our local hospital in New Jersey where he could see a pediatric specialist. Because Jordan's leg didn't have any protection, he felt every bump on the ride. It killed me to hear his pain. When we got there, the specialist gave us some bad news. Jordan may never walk again. To make matters worse, he told us that the piece of plywood had gone through the middle of Jordan's growth plate, which probably meant that the leg would stop growing. It further meant that in order to keep both legs at the same length, they would have to break Jordan's other leg, his good leg, limiting its growth as well. We refused to believe this report and turned to the Creator in fervent prayer, believing what James 5:16 tells us. The prayer of a righteous man is powerful and effective. We prayed hard and told the doctor that regardless of the prognosis, Jordan was going to be made whole again. This boy has been significantly covered by prayer since he was born, and we chose to continue to put his life, his body, into the hands of the God we learned to trust. Later that year, when the cast finally came off, Jordan walked. Can you say thank you, Jesus? What's even more amazing is that Jordan played ball that very next spring. He was able to pitch, hit, and run the bases. Unbelievable. And he's grown almost a foot since the doctors told us that his growth plates were too damaged to allow him to get any taller. At this moment, he is 6 feet 1 inch, the tallest member of our family. How could this have happened? Jordan's recovery amazed the doctors. They could not understand how it happened. The answer is simple: prayer. That incredible gift that allows us to be in communication with our Creator. Prayer is powerful, and it works.